Hi, welcome to Curiosity. I'm Gary J, your host, and today I thought I'd answer some of your messages and questions.
The desire to know and learn something.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.
So, we're now a few months into the Curiosity podcast, which a lot of you seem to be enjoying, and I thought it'd be a good time to answer some of your messages and questions from some of the previous episodes. But before I get any further, a few people have been asking the question of whether I've got more videos planned, and the answer to that is a big yes. I can tell you that I'm currently working on 2 at the moment, and I'm in the process of organising a 3rd and possibly a 4th. So, yes, there are more videos coming, but in the meantime, if you just keep popping back, listening to the podcast, I'll update you as things go on. Anyway, let's get into it. So, on podcast number 1, where I asked the question, do ghosts really exist? This got a lot of people talking because it's such a controversial subject. People like Defunk, who said, you have more chance of catching Bigfoot riding a unicorn than actually getting concrete proof of ghosts. Now, I actually really like that, to be honest. Now, his reasons for saying this is something that I actually take as a valid point. Now, he says that he actually goes urbexing quite a lot, and even though he goes to some really scary places, it's subjective to the environment at the time. And like I said, I totally agree with this statement because more and more people are actually going out there looking for abandoned buildings and pushing the boundaries when it comes to finding and visiting some of these places right across the world. Now, if you go onto YouTube and you look up channels like Exploring with Josh or Explore with Us, where Emma and Bob really do take to some fantastic places in the desert, by the way, like Ghost Towns and Area 51, I've never heard any of these say that they've seen a ghost. And by the amount of videos that these channels have, you would have thought they would have captured proof if it did exist. So, like I said, I totally agree with that statement. Now, staying with that episode, Jason82892, who is a regular visitor to the channel, said he'd worked in cemeteries as a stonemason for 17 years and had never seen anything paranormal. Now, you would think if ghosts were that commonplace as what we're led to believe on things like TV and YouTube channels, a graveyard would be the ideal place to see or at least experience something, would it not? Now, here we have a guy who's been there for 17 years, been around all the graves, done everything, and he's never seen anything. So why is that? Now, what I normally get off people is because you're not spiritually open. What the fuck does that mean? I'm not spiritually open. I mean, how does that work? You know, how do you become spiritually open? Is that just another word for you're gullible? I'm not sure. But whatever it is, I haven't got a clue. But obviously I'm not the only person. There's too many people saying that there's ghosts out there, that we're seeing things, and there's no real evidence. Because if you did have the evidence, you'd be all over TV. It would be big, 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 big news. Bigger than the moon landings. That's how big it would be. And none of you have come up with anything that proves 100% there is life after death.
You're listening to the Curiosity podcast.
Now, moving forward to podcast number 2, where I was asking if the Enfield haunting was real or not, it seems that no one is that convinced, which to be fair doesn't actually surprise me. But Kelly Shaw said she thought it was a hoax and even thought the same thing about the Amityville story. Now, we all know that. We've all seen the documentaries on the Amityville story, and I'm pretty sure this is the same type of thing. I cannot say 100% that this was unreal, but I would almost, I'd put my life on it that it's not real. And that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to put my life on it that it's not real. And it'd be really, really interesting to interview this lady. Let me interview her to see what bullshit she comes up with. So, if you are out there and you are listening, come and speak to me, and then we'll get to the bottom of it, and then we can get you some help that you obviously need. There you go. Anyway, moving forward, Julie Powell. Powell? Is that right? I've been calling you Powell for all these years. Who was another regular to the channel, said she thought it wasn't true, as did Denise Reynolds, who also said no, I don't think it's true, and she's another regular to the channel. So on this occasion, it seems that we all think that the old Enfield haunting story was as fake as Katie Price's boobs.
Do something that scares you.
So moving forward to podcast number 3, the question asked in this episode was, are we being visited by aliens? Now, this is one of those subjects that really is feasible, and a few of you thought that we were. Like Gypsy Paranormal, as yet another long-time subscriber to the channel, and even comes on my Twitter page quite a lot, and said he thought we were actually being visited and even studied by aliens. Now, even Todd Tiger thought the same thing and said without a doubt. But like I said at the time, as much as I'd like to think they were being visited, there's no concrete proof that we are. Everything is either videos that are so far away could be anything, faked media, or hearsay from years ago by some guy claiming to have worked at Area 51, which incidentally, I also worked at Area 51 when I was a soldier back in the 1980s. It was a really strange place and lots of people in there, and I actually did see an alien called Powell. Of course you did.
The desire to know and learn something.
Now the next thing up was podcast 4, where I was asking whether psychics and mediums were real. And I thought I would have got a better response with this one, but I don't think any of them actually knew that there was a podcast on it. Which makes it all a little bit strange really, because you would think they would know, wouldn't you? Anyway, there are a few people that left messages like Turbo Crazy, who said that she'd been to India a few years ago and said she was stunned how the village psychics knew that she was coming, and basically said that there was children all lined up on the streets waiting for her to arrive. Well, that sounds really good, but remember, in small villages and remote places like that, they don't get a lot of visitors, so people like yourself will stand out whether it's on a hill or a mountain. People will know you're there. So news travels really fast, and even in Indian villages they have access to mobile phones and the internet, you know. It's a bit like, you know, when the ice cream van comes round, I already know it's coming because Dwayne has already messaged me, and I end up stood on the corner with the rest of the other fat kids. I mean, that guy in that van is a true hero in my book. However, Tim, he said he thought the whole thing was a load of bullshit, and Steve Tetley, on the other hand, said that if anyone could talk to the dead, it would be kids about 2 years old or under, because their life has no other memories to speak of. Now, I actually think there's some legs in that explanation, I suppose. I don't know how, but there is.
You're listening to the Curiosity Podcast.
Now, in episode 5, I asked if there was a real creature like the Bigfoot out there just wandering the forests of America or in the snowy mountains of the Himalayas. Now, my mate Mark Callum thinks that possibly years ago there was something because legends have to start from somewhere, but he said that he isn't actually a believer today. Now, that is a really good reply to the question, because all stories need to start somewhere. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that those stories are real. You only have to look at the Slender Man tale. Nothing in that is true, and yet some people actually believe it is. Now, Jason 82892, he said there's actually a video on the internet with some guy who's claiming to have the remains of a Bigfoot in his freezer. Well, I think I've seen most claims through the years, and when these things are scientifically tested, when they can get their hands on them, it always turns out to be something like a bear or an elk's hair that's stuck on a tree, or is just plain faked. I've never seen anything that actually says this is something we've never seen before.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.
Anyway, that's it for today's podcast, and I want to just say to everybody, thank you for those that have participated over the past few weeks. And even though this has been slightly different, I thought it would be good to at least reply to some of your messages. I'll most probably do this again in a few weeks, so if you want to mention, then get involved and leave a message. But until then, thanks for listening to the Curiosity Podcast. I'm Gary J, and remember, there's a new podcast every Thursday. Plus, if you like what you've heard, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, don't forget you can visit my website at curiosityuk.net, listen on SoundCloud and on iTunes. And remember, you can now watch my series Curiosity on Amazon Prime. Thanks for listening, chat soon, and remember, do something that scares you.
The desire to know and learn something.
You're listening to Gary J's Curiosity.